So we're dry fitting the pieces today to the handgun, pistol, I suppose, Derringer. And there you can see the lock doesn't fit perfectly, and there is some space I'd need to clear out for that. Now I'm looking at the trigger guard and looking at the different hardware for the trigger guard and also how the trigger guard and the trigger go together. But eventually I'm going to see that the trigger guard was a little too big for the inlet. And that's something that I had to deal with. As well as just generally looking at the other pieces, and especially the biggest problem is going to be the barrel. There's some issues with how the barrel fits in the barrel channel and how the barrel tang fits in the tang inlet. And lastly, I'm going to show you guys the lock here and how the lock functions right now. So you can see there I pull the hammer back and then move the trigger bar there, and that does go down, but not fast enough to ignite a percussion cap. And then just looking at the hardware there. Now we've moved outside, and I'm working on making the lock inlet big enough. And I started out by using a couple of files and some sandpaper to make the lock inlet bigger. But then I realized that it would be easier to sand down the edges of the lock itself, which I started doing. And I didn't have to take very much off at all, so it wasn't a huge removal of material. But eventually I realized that the problem was, at least part of the problem, was that trigger bar, where the trigger moves in order to fire the gun, was actually too long and was hitting the back of the chamber there. And so I've got that shortened, and there's the lock fit and looking pretty good, though not cleaned yet. And then I started working on the trigger guard, which I decided for the most part that I was going to just take material off of the trigger guard and not try to make the inlet bigger, which worked out nicely. And there is the fitted trigger guard. And there's the barrel problem again. And I worked on that for a minute. And I think it's going to need some more work. I think there might be some problems with the barrel channel itself. But I watched a video once about the gunsmith of Colonial Williamsburg, which is really cool. And it said that if you were to walk past a gunsmith shop, the most common sound you would hear is a file. And I think I'm finding that to be true. So that's about all I've got for this video. Have a good one, guys.